All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a call. We have Gavin in New York. How you doing, Gavin? It
Hello.
says you want
Hi,
to talk
Gavin.
about ontology and the nature of origin.
Cheers. How
Hi, Gavin.
are you guys tonight? Thanks for having me.
Good.
Pretty
Good.
good.
So,
What you
how do
got
you
for
want?
us?
Yeah,
How do you want to approach it here?
this is the first time I stumbled across you guys. My wife found you. I actually was listening to something that I thought was live a few minutes ago for like the last 20 minutes, but come to find out it was just a recorded session. And I thought I was going to be talking to them, but I'm talking to you gentlemen, and that's beautiful. So I hung on here, and I just wanted to have a conversation and throw some ideas back and forth and get to know you guys.
Sure. Okay. So, what did you have anything about ontology and the nature of origin that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I was curious. I'm safe to assume you guys being the atheist community of Austin, you guys are full-blown atheist evolutionists.
I accept evolution.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an
Okay.
evolutionist. I do accept it as a scientific reality. As far as atheist, I would say Kelly recently has helped convert me over to being an atheist. I don't think the concept of God really has any relevance or cogent meaning that we can really define to do it. But yeah, definitely an atheist.
Okay. Is it a possibility at all in either of your guys' mindsets that there may be a God, or is it 100% absolutely not?
I have no idea. I am agnostic on the existence of God,
Yeah,
but I
same
don't.
here. I mean,
But I don't
you're
believe
agnostic.
in one.
Okay, here.
yeah, agnostic atheist. Now, if you were to mention specific gods, yeah, I can pretty much throw any god I've ever heard of before out for a very good reason. But when it comes down to a general concept of a classical god, yeah, okay, maybe, probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
Do
No,
you,
definitely a
do,
specific Most High, a specific creator or creators, depending on the pantheon or whichever
mhm.
religion.
Do you believe in any gods?
Yes, I do. I actually keep Torah. I follow the Most High, Yud He Vav He. Some people say Yahweh, Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahuwah. I follow
Okay.
that
Okay.
God from the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. I believe He is
Mhm.
the only Most High. I believe He is the fundamental foundation upon which we exist, and
Now,
I believe all the other ones are counterfeits and tools of the enemy. Of course, would be the devil, Lucifer, Satan, working to keep people from having a relationship with the Most High, including evolution and atheism.
so you think that evolution is
Because I do believe
a work of the devil?
a faith, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think
So
I think it's one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it. My apologies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. One thing I am curious about, you had mentioned a creator and creation. I was a little curious about that as well, because for me, I start getting uncomfortable when people say creation, because creation implies, of course, a creator, and I'm not convinced of a creator or creation. Now, obviously, we're here, but I was just curious about that particular kind of delve in there. What makes you believe? Is it strictly the Bible, or do you have something beyond the Bible and its claims that cause you to believe it?
So, absolutely. There's a number of different answers that I would love to give you, starting with, first and foremost, obviously the Bible, having that as evidence, one of the oldest texts that we have on this planet, right up there with the
Well,
the
wouldn't
Vedas.
the Vedas are older, and that's a different religion. Why would that validate Hinduism?
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you heard me say it, but that was actually, like I said, it's one of the oldest texts, right up there with the Vedas. It's
Yeah,
right
well,
up there with
yeah,
the
I know,
Egyptian
but
pyramids.
hear me out, because
Yeah,
earlier you said all the other gods were false. But if the
absolutely.
book of those gods are older than your book, wouldn't that make your God false to them?
Or at least increase
No,
the
not
credibility of
necessarily.
theirs more.
No, not
I mean,
necessarily.
if we're just
No, not
if we're
necessarily.
just using age as credibility for a book,
Yeah, I'm not taking the stance, nor did I make the claim that age was credibility for a book.
Okay.
As
All right.
the ultimate truth. I'm simply pointing out the fact that if we go back and we look at some of the oldest texts, there is at least something that should be taken into account as far as the fact that we do have something that wasn't created, let's say, less than 100 or a little over 100 years ago, like the Book of Mormon or the Jehovah's Witness variation on the New World Translation in Charles Taze, or going to marry Eddie Baker and Christian Scientists. I'm not a Christian, by the way, either. I'm just going to throw that out there so we can get that on the table. But the reason I brought up the fact, you asked me what were my reasons for believing in the proof and existence of a creator. And I was just simply sharing that the first thing is that we do have this Bible written down. I'm sure we would go back and forth and we'd have to just leave it on the side that I believe that it was inspired by the Most High through men, writing it down, infallible, inerrant.
I think I look at the Bible as the claim and not the proof.
Yep.
So the Bible means not. It absolutely means nothing to me as any kind of proof of a God. It's the writing that's telling us that there's a God there, but it's not proving it.
Yeah, you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sorry,
and I figured that's where you were going to go, which is why I was going to leave that one on the side.
Okay.
So what you got?
Well, what's your best? What's your best besides the Bible then?
Well, I would first ask you, which is where I was hoping we were going to go. Looking first and foremost, I would say that it's based on faith. Both of our stances are based on faith. If you believe in evolution, you being an agnostic, specifically the gentleman,
I accept evolution.
I disagree with faith.
I accept evolution. I have looked at the evidence for it. I am a scientist. I have looked at the scientific evidence, and I accept it as being valid. I don't believe in it. I accept it as being valid.
And I can assure you that I don't have an altar to Charles Darwin in my house that I pray to. I accept the scientific facts as they come out, or the evidence, I should say. And of course, the great thing about it is if more evidence comes to show something is right or wrong, that's fine. But the truth is the reason that I'm not a Christian, I was raised a Christian. I was a believer for right at 30 years. And the reason that I'm not a Christian has absolutely nothing with evolution. I believed in evolution when I was a believer. So evolution didn't go either way. That doesn't shake my faith. And so if we took evolution and threw it away completely, that still wouldn't get me to a God. That would just get me to say, okay, well, I don't have any clue to how humanity got here, or the other speciation got here. It would tell me absolutely nothing about if there's a God and what I should do about that God, or what is important to that God for me not to. You mentioned the devil, so I'm presuming you believe in some type of hell. And so being able to avoid a punishment being very important, we can throw evolution out the window and say, okay, for the sake of discussion, it doesn't exist. So where's God? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So religion. Oh no, absolutely, without a doubt, I'm with you. And I would ask you this, right? You said you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. So in the same essence, if you have evolution and you have a theory of evolution and you have the tenets of it, you're going to look at the specifics within the scientific field of evolution that you believe in, that you believe are true, that you believe.
We're going to look at DNA evidence. We're going to look at evidence of evolving species that are now evolving within our own time. Yeah, we're going to look at actual physical evidence that we can see. And we can't do that with the Bible. We can only read about something that happened supposedly thousands and thousands of years ago. So we can't see or test any of it. But we can do that with evolution.
And in fact, not only we have had predictions that certain things were going to happen, or there was things were going to be found, and ultimately, guess what? Those are found. Time and again, we find situations where we don't know the answer, and when there's conjecture, because there are a lot of things that we do not know. And that is one fundamental difference between me and my acceptance of evolution and the average faith of an average theist, because I'm willing to be wrong. If the evidence comes up, toss the bad evidence out.
Absolutely. So with that being said, if I could just finish one thought,
sure, go ahead.
Share an idea here to get it into the ring with you guys. and I know the Bible doesn't count to establish itself, but I almost think you would agree that if a piece of something in the Bible was provable, verifiable, testable, observational, that we would have to give some credence to that thing that's being defined and spoken of. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would say that the Bible does have truth in it. There are things in the Bible that, without a doubt, are true. I mean, there are certain things that I would not even try to deny. Some of them a lot more dubious, but it would have to be something pretty damn special for me to go, oh, that's true in the Bible, therefore God. That's that disconnect. I can believe certain prophecies came true, whether they're written before or after the fact. I can give you the fact that maybe they were written before, because people do say, hey, this is what's going to happen, and they do happen. You know, it's kind of like you don't count the losses, but that's reality. I can accept that, but it's that leap going from there to where's God? It's almost like where's Waldo hiding in the background? How do we find God? Because I would think that it would be a little easier to find, because believe me, the Bible says, seek and ye shall find. I looked diligently. I spent years of my life reading that Bible cover to cover every year, at least once a year after I was 13. But the bottom line is there was no God there.
Were you obedient to the Torah?
Well, I was raised in a very conservative Christian sect.
Okay, so
I didn't hear.
Okay, so you didn't hear. So we're specifically warned about that exact mindset in the Bible. So it's almost no wonder that you didn't find upon you seeking. When you
have you ever heard of the no true Scotsman fallacy?
Yep.
Do you know what that is?
No true Scotsman.
The no true Scotsman fallacy.
No, I don't know. I don't know the name, but I might know the details, and I'll tell you if I do or don't after
you've just committed it. What you basically just told Infidel is that he wasn't a true believer.
Absolutely.
And to him, he was a true believer. So what you're doing is you're saying that of all the believers, only certain people, the ones that are just like me, are really the only true believers.
No, I'm not saying the ones that are just like me. What I'm saying is based on the tenets of the Bible and the actual.
And they're based on the way you're interpreting those tenets. So it's other people who are just like you interpreting them the same way. You're the only true believers, and all the other believers aren't believers.
And let me just say,
they're missing pieces. For instance, let me ask you.
Yes, exactly. You're saying they're not right. Exactly. You're saying they're not true believers, and that you're absolutely committing what's called the no true Scotsman.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I'm saying that the vast majority do not have it right. Absolutely. But in the same sense, you're also taking.
Do you know what a fallacy is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Kevin, let me say one thing.
It just surprised me that you were admitting to committing a fallacy and thinking it was all right.
I'm not committing a fallacy. I don't have.
Yes, you're committing a no true Scotsman fallacy. You've done it like several times, 3 or 4 times now.
Why is your God making this so difficult?
Over and over.
But you're defining that and my reasoning towards it, but you're not giving me a chance to actually explain the reasoning.
Oh, you've said why? Because everybody else isn't interpreting it the right way. You've already told us why.
Well, I don't know about Well, I didn't say everybody else. I said the vast majority. See, and I would think you guys would agree. Words are very specific, very detailed, very important. I didn't say everybody. I said the vast majority. So that's not. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people are involved in your side and your group, and it doesn't matter how many people are true believers.
Well, let's take me. You just said I wasn't. I wasn't a true believer. So if we're going to go with I wasn't a true believer, let's take that. Let's use me as an example. We only need one. So let's go with that.
Perfect.
So if I wasn't a true believer, if I dedicated my life, if I read the Bible once or twice a year, every year from 13 to 30, and I dedicated time and effort, door knocked, spent all this time praying and desperately seeking for God, and he didn't show up because I ate bacon on a sandwich. That's kind of shitty already. But okay, so how do we reach people who, from your perspective, how do people be reached if you have to fit a certain mold before God will show himself to you? I mean, I was looking, but he sure was hiding.
Really simply, some people, he calls them in a multitude of ways. And I can't speak. I wouldn't even begin to be so presumptuous to speak on somebody's entire walk and what they did when people were watching and what they did when people weren't watching. I don't know. I don't have that ability to supernaturally read hearts and minds and to know the actions of each and every single person. But if you weren't obedient and you followed a doctrine that did not adhere to the obedience which is spoken about over and over plainly from the very beginning to the very end. And I don't know the ins and outs and the details of your particular life, man. I have no idea how you conducted yourself, the things you were into, the things you did, the things that you did that you loved to do that went against his ways. I don't know any of those things. But if you sought him and you did not find him, well, it's really. And I was trying to go a different direction, but ultimately, your exact walk and mindset is spoken about clearly and blatantly from beginning to end. Those who don't follow the Torah, their prayers are an abomination. If you seek him and you're not following his righteous ways, and you're doing what you want to do, and you justify your actions, and you're good in your own eyes.
So he wasn't a true believer.
Yeah. So God's an asshole because when my children do wrong, it's my responsibility to say, hey, this is not the way you should be doing things. So if I was going out there in earnest, whether I was doing the complete wrong things, if I was going out there and earnestly seeking God, why wouldn't he meet me halfway? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you were in need, I don't even know you, but if you were in dire need and I was able to help you and reach out and assist you, I would do it. So, but God doesn't, and I don't even know you. But with my own children, that's a total different story. So it just seems kind of strange that God's playing hide and seek.
Well, he tells us many times that he's withdrawn himself from us because of our sinful ways.
When did he tell us that?
Mediator.
I missed the email.
I'm going to pull up the verses. Give me half a second.
No. I can pull up. I don't need you to read a verse. I know what you're talking about God getting pissy.
I'm still wondering when God talked to us. You're saying that he told us, but I don't hear him. I've never heard him talk, so he's never told me. And if you're going to quote the Bible again, that is just a claim. All I know is that was written down by men sometime in the past. I don't really know if it's the word of God or not. There's no way for me to know.
So do you believe that there's ultimately one truth regarding our existence?
No.
So how does that work? We just live in a land of make-believe?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea about the ultimate truth. As far as I know, there isn't one, because you'd think after 100,000 years of searching for it, we would have found it by now, but nobody's been able to find it. So I don't think it exists.
I didn't get an instruction manual tied to my toe when I was born. So I'm just left muddling through it like everybody else. And I can't pretend to know all the answers. I just have to go with the best I got.
Well, I mean, we're told that since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen. But
no, we aren't told that. You are told that. You're
telling us that,
but we aren't told that. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. You're acting like somebody came and like God came and told that to us, but no, he never did. He never did.
Well, he did. He had it written down in the book. Whether or not you read the book is a whole nother conversation.
The book. I have read the Bible. I have totally read it through.
Okay.
Me too.
But again, the Bible does not prove that it is the word of God. It's just a book that was written down 2,000 years ago. I have no idea who wrote it. I don't know what kind of mindset they were in when they wrote it. It's the claim. It's the claim. It isn't the proof.
It was, some of it was more than 2,000 years ago, but either way, 2,000, 5,000, whatever, 3,000, whatever word we want to put there, the bottom line is it doesn't answer us.
The book of Job is what, 2,700 years old, I think, the oldest book.
Yeah, it's less than 3,000.
It goes, yeah, everything pre-diluvian, the Great Diluvian. But my question to you, back to the other one before, if you're okay with this, if we could go back, I asked you, is there one truth regarding all of our existences? One truth. If it's true for you, it's true for me. However we got here, whether we spontaneously came about without intelligent design or we were intelligently designed, do you agree? And I'm going to ask the other gentleman because you already gave your answer. But do you agree that there is only one truth regarding our existence?
Well, I think that the truth regarding my existence, my parents are dead. So what position or how long it took them to achieve it, I really don't know. And frankly, I don't want to. But I'm sure that there might have been some, oh, God's in there somewhere. But beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I think that between you, each and every one of us, the truth and reality of our existence is going to vary because we have different experiences. We live different lives. We're different people. Sure, we can share a common reality, but our experiences of that common reality are not the same. I experience something that you don't. Yeah, obviously, you do as well.
Not trying to be a jerk. I don't think either A, you're understanding, or B, you listened, or you're understanding or listening to the specific question that I'm asking. I'm not talking about your personal subjective experiences on this planet. I'm asking you very specifically, in terms of our ontology, the nature of existence, how we got here, the age-old question: how are we here? Why are we here? What are we doing? How did it come about? I'm asking if there's one truth, and I'll if you don't mind, I'd love to break down and ask you it a different way on a more tangible level. If I asked you, do you exist without the ground, any ground, period, as a fundamental foundation? You would say no, right? Is that a safe assumption? Can we find common ground there? No pun intended.
If you mean literally, do I believe that I'm standing on planet Earth and my feet touch the ground? Yeah, I would say that that's a reality. And for most people who don't die in infancy, that would be true for them as well.
Absolutely. And we could even say that the ones who died in infancy were attached by the umbilical cord to their mother, dependent on their mother's life, and the mother was attached to ground. Even if she was on a hospital.
I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm willing to stipulate this if you can get to where you're going.
Yeah, let's skip all of this and get to your point, because I have other callers that we need to get to too. So I'm going to give. So let's try to get to the point right away.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I'll wrap it up like this. It's really simple. You don't exist without the ground, neither do I. It's something we share. It's a common fundamental foundation. It's a thread that weaves us both together. It's true for you. It's true for me. We would call that an ultimate truth. Therefore, that is a truth of our existence. And it's true for one. It is true for all here. So when we take that out, we magnify it out in the levels of magnification to the ontology, to the nature of how we got here. My premise and my stance is, however we got here, whether we were created by the God of the Bible, the God of the Quran, Allah, whether it was by Brahma from Hinduism, you pick your flavor, it doesn't matter, whether it was evolution and there was no intelligent design. However it happened, it's true for one, it is true for all. There is one ultimate truth regarding our existence. And if that's the case, and I don't know if you agree with that, but that brings us to only really a handful or two of plausible ideas. And there's really only two it breaks down to, of course, and I think you guys would agree with that at the fork in the road. You have evolution and you have creation. And
evolution has nothing to do with the origin of life. If you think it does, you need to go study evolution. It has nothing to do with the origin of life.
Well, it depends on what type of evolution you're talking about. Are you talking
no evolution has anything to do with the evolution or with the beginning of life. Evolution can only happen after life has started.
It's speciation.
If you think evolution is about the beginning of life, you need to go back and study and find out what evolution is.
Well, you're talking about abiogenesis.
I think you need to go back. I think you need to go back to the drawing
board. You are talking about abiogenesis. You're talking about abiogenesis, not evolution.
But the bottom line is that the truth is that I don't know how life originated.
Nope.
The difference is that I feel that I'm honest enough to say that I don't know. I think that the problem is that the theistic standpoint is that I know by faith. And if you go by I know by faith, then I could know by anything. I could know by the invisible pink unicorn or your God or the fact that we just got spit out of the nose of the giant arquebusier in Hitchhiker's Guide. But the truth is we don't know. And I'm not trying to tell you I do. And that's the fundamental difference, once again, between my accepting of evolution and you having faith and believing that you know the answers to these questions. And I can just say, I don't know. I just don't know.
Gavin, I'm going to give you the
agree.
last word, but I'm going to give you the last word, but we're going to have to move on. So wrap it up for us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I absolutely agree that I take it on faith. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt, you guys have faith in the evolutionary process. We've never seen anything change on this planet from one species to another. We've only ever seen what the Bible says happens.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
No, we have not.
Yes, we have. We have seen the evolution of new species. Go look up Big Bird on Galapagos Island. That just became a new species within the last decade. Within the last decade. I just did. The big bird species on the Galapagos Islands. I just did. Go look. You're talking about stuff that you don't have any clue about. I'm sorry, Gavin, but we've got to move on. And obviously, you're not very caught up with what with the science of evolution. I would encourage you to actually go and study it. Don't study what other people say about it that don't believe it's real, but actually go study evolution itself from a scientific point of view. And I think maybe if you have a better understanding, we can have a better conversation about this.
We're going to talk to a fellow Canadian. This is John. He's a theist from Canada. I think we've had calls from him before, but he wants to talk about Pride Month. John, you're on live Truth Wanted with Vino and MD.
Okay, I just want to make it clear. I think the whole Pride Month that's happening this June is a big mistake, and it should be banned immediately.
It should be what?
It should be banned immediately.
Banned. Okay.
Banned.
Yeah, I gotcha.
BANNED.
Okay. Why?
See, the United States was founded to be a country where everyone is treated equal, all men are treated equal, and all the gay people are being given special privilege. Like, why did they get a problem?
Hang on. You're Canadian, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we're Canadian too. So why are you referencing the U.S.?
I think it's because the U.S. show, you know.
I mean, sure, but
well, it's happening. It's happening up here too.
Yes, but we were not founded to be a Christian nation or whatever. Like,
or that's.
I mean, we actually probably have more grounds to be a Christian nation than others. But who cares? Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't. So the basis upon which a nation is founded doesn't really have any bearing to me on the morality of these sort of things.
John, how do you feel about Black History Month?
It should be abolished. There's no reason for Black History Month. None. There's no such thing as White History Month. There's no such thing as Asian History Month. History is history.
Can we dig down on what exactly bothers you about these things? You know, like what is it? Is it government spending, or is it just the attention? You want more attention, or is it like, you know, like specifically, what could you list the reasons it's an issue other than just the fundamental component?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. A, you're giving people privilege, and B, you're telling these people that they're special or that they're privileged and that they're entitled to things which they're not. Everyone has equal rights. If you're gay, you can live your life any way you want to. We don't get special privilege. I hate that. No one gets special privilege. I'm black. I don't want special privilege.
Okay, I don't think that's the spirit of any of these celebrations, right? It's not like during, like people don't get like can skip out on parking tickets during these Pride Month or whatever, right? Like that's not what it's about. It's just about giving some attention to something that's generally been underrepresented or has been put upon in some way, or maybe doesn't get any attention any other or the rest of the year and needs a little bit of extra love. I mean, like it's not about taking something away from anyone else. It's just about, and it's not like it's optional, right? It's like, unless you happen to run into a parade accidentally, you can skip the whole thing yourself, right? But if people want to do this, go for it, right? Like, are you saying,
what is the point of this? What is the point of this? What is the point? What is so special about being gay? Being gay is not a good thing. People are celebrating it. It's not a good thing.
Okay,
well, what do you mean it's not a good thing?
Yeah, that's a whole other question. Why isn't it a good thing?
Because
what do you mean?
Male and female. I just told you it's supposed to be male and female.
What are you talking about?
You need a male. You need a couple.
What do you mean by supposed to be?
Yeah, that was my question. Supposed to be.
MD aware. You're a doctor. You should know this. You need a male and female to produce a baby. That's common sense.
I mean, you need a sperm and an egg right now.
Who's making a baby?
But yeah, that's not really the point, I think.
Like, you still haven't answered my question. What is the point of this? I see no point to this because you're giving people special privilege.
Okay, what's the point of Halloween?
Yeah, what's the point of Christmas? Do you celebrate Christmas, John?
Don't change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject. This is very germane.
Yeah, this is a...
So, do you celebrate Christmas?
Yes.
What's the point of celebrating Christmas?
Celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ.
So that's your Lord. You celebrate the birth of your Lord.
Your Lord too, fool.
Oh, you're testing me, John. I haven't called you any names. Don't call me any names.
Nope. Sorry.
Thank you. He's not my Lord. You may believe that, and you're entitled to your beliefs. You're entitled to celebrate Christmas. I am entitled to celebrate Pride Month and Black History Month and whatever the hell else I want to celebrate.
There shouldn't be no Black History Month. History is history.
In your opinion, why though?
I don't know why you don't understand. Because, yes, look, by saying Black History Month, you're saying that black people are separate from white people. That's the very definition of racism.
I don't think that's what you're saying. That's what we're saying. I mean, we can get into the whole like race discussion, but I don't think that either of us necessarily want to go down that road.
What?
I think the point that we're trying to make is that you want to celebrate certain times of the year and other people want to celebrate other times of the year, and they attach different values to those celebrations. And I don't understand, like, this is not a very live and let live attitude that you're showing us. So why do you care? Why do you care if someone else decides they want to celebrate Pride? Like, do you not consider Christmas a celebration of Christianity? Should Christians get special treatment?
Christians are being persecuted as we speak. If you say you're Christian, you're canceled.
So are atheists and Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs and everyone. Everyone is being persecuted everywhere all the time. There's always someone with a different...
Christians are being specialized. You can't even say Merry Christmas now. You can read a book.
Yes, you can. You can say Merry Christmas. John, I'm giving you permission to say Merry Christmas.
I'm going to say Merry Christmas right now. Merry Christmas, everyone. I don't see
at Christmas time.
What?
You can't say it at Christmas time. Okay, though. We'll answer this question.
Sure you can. Like, here's the thing. So John, I have friends of varying faith beliefs. Okay? To the people who are atheists, I might say Happy Holidays. To the people who are Christian, I say Merry Christmas. to my friends who are Jewish, I say Happy Hanukkah, right? It's called being a nice person and being in tune with like what other people value and treating them the way you would want to be treated. Isn't that like a golden rule, something that your like favorite superhero said? Like, didn't Jesus say something like that? Do unto others?
Say one thing. I'm only gonna say one thing. Pride comes before the fall. When man comes to fall, that's when man gets pride. That's when hell comes upon us. Have a good night, gentlemen.
Oh, I hadn't heard that connection between like the sin. Yeah, that's funny.
That's very funny, actually.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I don't like it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, equivocation fallacy is what that was.
Yeah.
But hey, that was a fun little thing to end off on, and I always like making them hang up on me. I find it very satisfying.
I'm not sure we ever connected like the actual problem, right?
No.
Like he says he's not allowed to be for Merry Christmas to be said, but who's stopping him? Is he just mean like as a society we're just trying to be more inclusive? Or
I think that's the problem. Is he's used to a homogenous society where everyone's the same, and he doesn't see the value in like a more diverse society.
Well,
but we'll never know because he rage quit the call. So.
Next, we're going to talk to Baked Alaska, who's calling in from New York. Baked Alaska, you've called in before, and last time you scared me because I thought you were the infamous like Nazi guy, Baked Alaska, but you're not. You're like a different Baked Alaska, which I don't know why you keep the name, but that's your business, I guess. What's going on, Baked Alaska?
Yeah, what's up, man? Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. I was curious what you guys thought was maybe the top or maybe your best argument for God not existing. The reason I ask is just because what I did, the way I basically became a theist was by looking at the arguments and the evidence on basically both sides. Like I watched a lot of debates and things like that, and I ended up just basically falling on the side that the arguments were better for God existing than the opposite. So that's why I ask. It's a constant learning process for me. So I was curious what your guys' views were.
Sure. Aaron, you want to take this first?
Yeah, I can take this first. So my argument is that there's too many gods. That if God was real, that there would be a consistent story for all of human history, from the beginning all the way down to now, a consistent message, a consistent story. But there are too many religions out there for there to be a single God that has a single message to share with us. And they all start at different periods of time, and they all end at different periods of time. That would be my best argument.
It's interesting.
Dan? Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think they're man? Do you basically think they're man-made religions? The other, like the all these different religions, right?
Yeah, I take the position that religions are man-made. Yeah.
Okay. So if, like, for example, Christianity was true, why would it invalidate Christianity if other people just started making up their own religions?
It wouldn't necessarily, but the Christian religion technically started with Jesus Christ. If you look back in all the early writings, there were several different flavors of Christianity. Some of them rejected the Old Testament. Some of them accepted the New Testament and the Old Testament. Some of them mixed it and kind of remixed it and made it their own. And even Christianity, and then Christianity came out of Judaism, and even Judaism, it had a beginning, but human history was way before Judaism. If the Jewish God was real, how come he waited until 5,000 years before Jesus was born to make an appearance? Because human history, 10,000 years recorded human history, 10, 12,000 years, something like that. I mean, why did he wait 7,000 years to make an appearance?
You're saying why did he wait? God wait for Jesus, like the 5,000 years you're saying in reference to Jesus, right?
Yeah. Why did he make? Well, Christianity comes out of Judaism, so why did he wait until Moses? Right? Why did to make an appearance?
I
right?
mean, there's
or Abraham
I mean,
or whatever.
Christians have right. I mean, I've heard like apologetic explanations for that that are based upon not in terms of the number of years, but in terms of the population of the world, and that for conditions to be ripe for Jesus's message to take hold, right? And so there was relative stability in that area of the world. Actually, only a tiny percentage of the world's population had actually existed prior to Jesus's birth, right? And so like. So from that perspective, it's not like that. It's not really that early on in the history of humanity that Jesus came.
Let's talk about this. How old do you think humanity is?
It was very early on. I'm sorry. It was very early on.
Sorry to interrupt you, Baked Alaska. How old do you think humanity is?
I think humanity is somewhere around approximately like 500,000 to like 750,000 years old.
Yeah. Okay. So that's depending on what you mean by humans, right? Obviously, there's differences in how anthropologists talk about. Yeah, I'd say that's at least a fair summation. You could say that's a perspective. That's a long time. I mean, even if we're talking about like, and just to bolster Aaron's point here, right? You're right in that technically, yes, population sizes are not going to be matched up with population sizes in like a post-agricultural society, right? We're talking about hunter-gatherer groups, very small, right? But we are talking about a lot of people that are unsaved. And before that, of course, if we're following a materialist understanding of history, if we're looking at the world from that perspective, we're also seeing human beings evolved, right? We're seeing human beings coming from another animal, right? And still being animals themselves. I mean, does that align in your worldview as well?
Well, I mean, I do tend to think, and there's actually been some literature out recently on this, dating Adam and Eve back to those prehistoric times. So I don't think there's really I don't think there needs to be any inconsistency with what like the science tells us and what like the Christian worldview says. I think they can line up there. But just in terms of the other point Aaron mentioned, I mean, Aaron, don't you think that the fact that so many people all over the world in all different societies like believe in God, I mean, isn't that generally evidence of something being true? I mean, do we generally desire something that doesn't exist?
I believe that I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know on how. I'm not sure how innate a belief in God is to human beings. I'm not sure if I'm aware of any studies that would that have studied that, have come to an understanding of that. I think we're mammals, so we're emotional creatures. We have emotions, and emotions kind of rule the day as far as we're concerned. To kind of push us to and fro with their silliness. And so I think there's probably an emotional component to wanting to believe in some higher power. Like the previous caller, there's something when things get tough and rough. That's just, I think it's normal to reach out to something, to want to feel connected to something out there to make it better, to solve the problem, to improve things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's something out there actually listening or even capable of listening.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't necessarily. Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but I just think that an inference could be drawn that it may, because we generally don't desire things that don't exist.
Yeah, I just kind of steer. Right? I just kind of steer away from making those. Yeah, I just kind of steer away from making those inferences, because if God really wanted to know us, He was there. He'd make it a little clearer. I think I'd want. If I was in God's position and I wanted people to know that I existed, I'd make it a little clearer and not like people depend on emotional inferences. Right.
So no, this is a good point, and I think this is actually one of the better objections. Is like divine hiddenness. Why isn't it more clear that God exists? And I think there the question is whether for some subset of people, whether even if they were given more evidence, whether they would believe, right? Whether they would go into a saving relationship with God. So that's sort of independent, right, of what the level of evidence is. Like if you guys knew God existed, would you worship him?
If we're talking about Yahweh, no. I don't think he would be worthy of worship. But there's different concepts of the Christian God, so it kind of depends.
Okay, so why? So let's just stick with Christianity. Why would God need to provide you more evidence if you're not going to worship him? You're not going to go into a saving relationship with him, right? So what would be the purpose of God providing you more evidence so you could spur him?
Well, I mean, if he wants me to acknowledge his existence and at least consider it, he has to be there, right? Just because I wouldn't worship him doesn't mean other people wouldn't. I don't know why he would have to be divinely hidden from me, and also divinely hidden from those that would worship him.
Well, but that's the issue, right? Like, because he's not divinely hidden for other sets of people. So we're just talking about the subset of people that don't believe in him. And then the question becomes, right? And I
would counter, why is God hidden to some but not to others?
Yeah, like
that's weird.
Why do the Aborigines don't get to go to heaven, right? Or don't get to have a relationship with the Christian God? You know, like why is it that a particular sect of people within the Middle East, and then more broadly after that, the Western world gets to have a relationship with God, but folks in indigenous communities around the world, even post Christianity's rise as a global power, still don't have an acknowledgement that even he's a thing, right? To me, that seems strange. To me, if anything, that points to the locality of the religion, right? The locality of the phenomenon. I think that gives evidence to Christianity being a cultural tradition and a local human idea rather than a divine one.
Well, I mean, there seems to be like a tension here because like earlier Aaron was saying like because there's all these different religions, that's a reason not to believe in Christianity.
Yes.
But then when we find examples of like people not having a religion, that's a reason not to believe in Christianity. Right? And so like I don't think you could, I'm not saying like you guys are doing this, but I'm just saying like I don't think you could have it both ways. Right?
Well,
like,
I think Aaron's point was there needs to be a consistency within the Christian story, right? There seems to be an inconsistency in the narrative at which Christianity portrays its origins, and specifically Judaism as well, versus what seems to be the apparent case in reality. Like you were talking about how scientists can trace ourselves back to Adam and Eve. I'm not sure about like those kinds of specific claims, but I don't think that's a view that Aaron has or that I have. I think the history that Christianity portrays itself as having doesn't necessarily line up with the historical reality. And it seems to be more of a local phenomenon. At least I don't want to put words in Aaron's mouth, but I'm assuming that's his take.
It seems most religions are local phenomenon, which would lead me to believe that there's not a universal God speaking to people universally. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd have the same God appearing in different cultures across continents, across time. And you just don't see that. You see religion starting with specific groups of people and going from there and spreading because if you and I were to sit down and we were to design a system, okay, we're God and we want our children to learn about us and follow us. We could come up with about 1 million different ways of doing that are better than the current way that God supposedly is using.
So you could come up with a better way that people would be able to freely choose to go into a saving relationship with God.
I think so.
And how would that be accomplished?
By sending the same message to the same places on the earth at the same time, maybe by making sure that false messages don't get spread, by actually making sure that there's no divine hiddenness, that everybody gets a message, that there's a consistent repeatable, reliable way for everybody to come to know that God exists and is real, instead of having a certain subset, select group of people that get to have those experiences and other people that don't get to have those experiences. And then people can choose for themselves whether they want to enter into that relationship or not. And there's no proof. There's high suggestions of it because of all these, unique things that are happening at the same time across the world. But there's no, that's off the top of my head.
Right. Well, I think some of those things that you mentioned, at least, are consequences of free will and people choosing to go their own path, right? So there's nothing like God can't make people freely do things.
Oh no, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it, but besides like divine hiddenness and the other thing we mentioned, like, is there any other compelling, objectively, Dan, why did you say you wouldn't worship God even if you knew he existed?
Well, first, let me say, when it comes to the free will thing, right? Yes, you could argue that a free will component is there. Let's say, for the sake of argument, free will is a thing, right? The choice still has to be there. The choice isn't there for me right now. I can't even choose to have a relationship with God if I don't think he's real, right? It's kind of like, can I choose to believe the earth is flat? I don't know. I don't know if I'm kind of compelled to believe that the earth isn't, because I have an understanding of evidence. I have an understanding of science. I have an understanding of philosophy. I have an understanding of a lot of subjects that like prevent me from having that belief. I could like, if I said that the earth was flat, I'd be pretending. It wouldn't be true to my beliefs. So I would not want to pretend with a God belief either, even if I thought it was the right thing to do. I want to be something that I have a genuine belief in. So I'll start with that first. But when talking about not worshiping him, I choose the position as an atheist to mean that I don't know what a God is until somebody defines it for me, right? I can't evaluate the God claim until somebody gives me a God claim to work with. So if you say God is just nature, okay, yeah, I believe in nature. I guess that means I believe in God, right? We have a tendency in philosophy, particularly Western philosophy, to talk about the Christian God. And I think that is a sort of leftover from, a history of Christianity, like being so inundated with philosophical literature, like just in part of the culture, that it's kind of a holdout from that. And so to be fair to other God claims, I have to be like, well, I have to evaluate it first. But if we're talking about the Christian God and why I wouldn't worship him, the classical Christian God seems to me to violate every intuition I have about what is right and what is wrong. Now, maybe I don't know what right and wrong is. Maybe it's just my human concepts, and maybe it has no meaning. But if I were to be a judge, or if I were to have some understanding, some semblance of what right and wrong is, I can't, again, choose that, right? It's something that I just believe or I don't believe. And I do have a sense of what is right and wrong. And I think the Christian God has violated that on many, many different accounts, both Old and New Testament versions of that God. So because of that violation, I don't think he's worthy of worship. I'm not sure if there's a being that's like worthy of worship anyway. I think the concept of worship is kind of weird in itself. But I would at least not follow their tenets, right? I don't think the Christian formula is a good recipe to make a good person. In other words, I think it can lead you to problematic ideas. So that's why I wouldn't follow him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, if for the sake of argument, like that not only was it like established that God existed, but the Christian God existed in terms of like, which the concept obviously of the Christian God is like that God is all good, right? If you knew that God was all good, would you worship him then?
If I knew that God was all good, then I must have a different understanding of what good is than what I understand it to be now.
Yeah. God would have some explaining to do.
So it's kind of difficult for me to say. It's kind of like saying what would water do in the universe where physics is different? It's like, I don't know. I'm not there. You know what I mean? I'm in this universe.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at. Do you think it's possible that something's gotten lost? Like, could something be lost in translation? Right? Like, if, for example, God exists and He is all good, and we just take that, like, you know, as a presupposition. Then something's gotten lost in translation, like either in the way things were written in the Old Testament or the New Testament, right? If He was all good, do you think then that
if He was all good, then the Bible is not a reliable account of who God is. And so in that sense, I really don't know who God is then.
Yeah.
Let's assume the Bible's not correct. But you know that there's a supreme being that created the universe, and he's perfect and He's all good, morally speaking. Would you worship in them?
Yeah, maybe. But would I even be a Christian at that point?
Okay.
Because like, if we're saying the Bible is straight up wrong, I don't know what that says about the Jesus narrative. I don't know what that says about a lot of Christian theology, right? So I may not even be a Christian at that point. I may be something else. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that what we think, right? There's a book called "Is God a Moral Monster?" Right? Because a lot of the things in the Old Testament, like, raise these questions, like they do. I mean, Christians have struggled with these issues for centuries. So I don't think there's really that much of a difference between us, because, like, I'm sure the things that you find objectionable, like morally, like I do as well. I'm sure our morals are very probably 99% or I shouldn't say 99, but like 90% aligned, right? So there has to be something that's like, I guess what I'm saying is like there's explanation.
What we have in common, you mean?
Like, yeah, like I'm sure you seem like a good guy. Obviously, we don't know each other. We've never met or anything. We don't, but like I'm
appreciate
sure
that.
like you're a good person. Yeah, and so like I don't think like the things that bother you that are in the Bible, like they would bother me too, right?
Yes.
If they cannot be explained, if there's no way of contextualizing them, and so
well, our explanations will be different though. Here's my take on this, Baked Glass. Sorry to interrupt you, because I don't mean to cut you short. We have a bunch of calls here, but here's the thing, right? In my point of view, the reason why I think you and I might share a lot of moral intuitions is because we both grew up in 21st century America, right? I think like we have a lot of secular values that we probably have in common. And I think our perspectives are probably going to be different if we grew up in a different time and place, right? Same thing with our objections to the Bible. If you're able to find something that gives you peace with your interpretation of the Bible, more power to you. But my interpretation and explanation is that this is made up by people, and that's what gives me peace about it, right? I don't have to say, well, I think maybe there's a mistranslation here, or maybe the message isn't getting through, or maybe the Bible isn't just an accurate depiction, or maybe I'm not getting the right understanding of what's going on. I can just rest happy and say, yeah, I think it was all made up from the beginning. And so there's going to be a difference there in how we have that understanding. I don't need the Bible to have an understanding of morality, thankfully. And I don't think you do too, either, for the record. I don't think any Christian does.
Yeah.
But I don't have to rely on the Bible for anything, honestly, other than what the Bible says, which is also weird because there's different understandings of what even that is. So I don't know. But I'll let you say some final thoughts before we let you go.
Yeah. Sure, and I enjoyed the conversation as always. I mean, I guess I would just leave you and the listeners with that reference to that book, "Is God a Moral Monster?" I think it was written by Paul Copan, because I feel like we all are kind of on the search for truth, and we have to keep an open mind. And a lot of the objections that we have, there are answers to the objections. We may not find them convincing, but a lot of times people don't even know they're out there, right? And they just hear things, and they're not inclined to like take the step to be like, am I, to falsify their own views. Like, I think you have to proactively try to falsify your own views. That was what prompted me to call in and ask you guys for your, arguments against God existing, etc. But of course, we're all biased, and that's the challenge, right? Like we all have a sort of a position established of sorts, and I think you can change it. I mean, ultimately, I think you can. I've heard people say like you don't choose your beliefs. I think you kind of do, though, in a way, based upon like how open you are to changing them. So unless you guys had anything else, I could leave you and go back to the wonderful chat.
Sounds good, Baked Alaska. I do appreciate you calling in. Tell you what, I will check out the book. I see it's on Amazon. I'll give it a look through, and then maybe next time you call in, I can have a more informed opinion about what I think about it. So we can go from there. Sound good?
Awesome.
Nope. And I think he's got. Oh, there he is. Okay, there you go, Baked Alaska. I'll see you next time.
Next call coming in from Emmanuel. Again, we've got so many Texas callers. I love it tonight. Emmanuel calling in to talk about empathy. Hi, Emmanuel. Emmanuel?
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Did I say your name properly? I think I might have mispronounced it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. No problem.
Okay.
So one time I was walking by the street and I was watching someone, doing an open mic, and he was like preaching and he was like screaming. And, there were like college students basically around that street, and they were saying like, bro, don't shove your faith down our throat. And what I was trying to say was, sometimes you have to understand why people are like warning you, or, as a religious person, like, do you understand how much people are like caring for you while they're trying to warn you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I see in the side of secular or atheist side that a lot of people think that, religious people warn atheist people because they're trying to force them or manipulate them. But for the most part that I've seen, it's because, they're just scared that the other person is going to hell. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. And I think for myself, coming from a very conservative Christian background growing up, I kind of hold the position now that if I'm talking to somebody who's religious, that especially if somebody who's Christian who believes in a literal hell, if they believe in what they say they believe, they should be yelling at me. They should be screaming that I'm going to hell. Otherwise, what are you doing? If you truly believe that your friends and family are all going to burn forever and ever and ever, why do you even go to work? Why do you go to school? Why do you have any other thing going on in your life right now? That seems like the scariest thing in the world. So, I mean, yes, I can have a lot of empathy for people who do that. Will I say that overrides my annoyance or my frustration in public when somebody is preaching at me in a public space when I'm trying to just go about my day? Not always. I can hold those things at the same time. I can have empathy for somebody and understand where they're coming from, but still have my boundaries or my limitations on what I want to listen to and when.
And the other thing is, I'm sorry. Hello?
Hi. Yeah, just go ahead.
Still here.
Oh, okay. So, this is like, many times I've called this show before. So, even me, I keep calling to this show because, I thought it was like easier to convince atheists to actually believe in God. Now I'm seeing why it's very hard to actually convince, someone to actually believe in God. So, all the proof that I've got beforehand, they just throw it out because I don't know, for some cases it's not like compelling to them. But even me, when I tell other people, to receive Jesus as the Lord and Savior, I'm doing it out of out of a good intention. It's not to harm them. It's not like to belittle them or whatever. And a lot of people on the secular side, they just don't understand it. Even one time, I remember there was a guy, he's attracted to, I don't know what you call it. Can you help me out with words? He's attracted to the same gender. So, I was just trying to say, receive forgiveness and stuff. And I was telling him to repent. It was not that long ago. And I was just doing it out of a good character. But he said I was being homophobic and stuff, and I didn't actually understand it. This happens a lot.
Just because you have just because you have a sincere. Go ahead, Phoebe. Take it. Go ahead.
Hang on a second, dear. Hang on a second. I'm going to just ask you a slightly more esoteric question here, and by esoteric I mean slightly out of the box here. Do you believe that I have the right to choose to go to hell? Do you believe that I have the right to ignore what you're trying to say to me, and that I can therefore, based on your belief that there is a hell, I'm assuming that that is something you believe. Do you believe that I have a right to choose to go to hell if I want to?
I don't believe in free will, so I don't think anyone has a choice to go to heaven or hell. So God predetermined.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to slow you down here then. So if you don't believe in free will, why are you trying to convince people to change their mind?
I don't try to change their mind. I just do it out of a good intention.
I understand it, but is the ultimate goal here to try to tell somebody that they're doing wrong to change their ways?
I don't try to change anybody's way. I just try to make them a Christian.
So you are trying to change their ways because you're trying to. So the answer to the question is yes. So can you see why some people may take an offense to that if you were to say, join me as a Christian, or you're going to hell?
I think that's two questions, I guess. So, when I used to believe in free will, I used to do it so that they will make the right choice, and I'll try to persuade them. But right now, I don't believe in free will. So if I tell the word of God and someone receives it, I'll say they're probably predetermined to be saved. And if they don't receive it, I'll say they're probably predetermined to go to hell.
Emmanuel,
so right now,
on this point, then I just want to ask you on this point. Then, if you don't believe in free will, then why do you think that the individual that you were talking to about having a same-sex relationship was doing it then? Why do you believe that there's in any way, shape, or form this occurring at all if there's no free will?
Even that attraction is not from his choice. I think there's a study.
Why does it exist? Is what I'm trying to get at here. I'm trying to get at why does it exist in the first place if it's something that's supposedly going against Christianity here? Why does it exist if there's no free will?
What I think is, first of all, I'm not saying that he's going to hell just because he has a.
But I've moved on from that. I'm asking you. I'm trying to drill down.
I'm sorry.
If something that goes against Christianity exists, why does it exist if there's no free will?
It's because God predetermined some people to be saved, and some people will never be saved.
Whoa.
Emmanuel, you're Calvinist, correct?
I mean, okay. I'm sorry.
You're a Calvinist?
Hello? I mean, I don't know. My denomination, I'm Pentecostal. I used to actually be a Mennonite. So when I was a Mennonite, I used to believe in free will because I grew up in a Mennonite church, and they used to believe in free will. So whenever I tell God's word, I used to think that they have a choice, so I could persuade them because they have free will.
So
the only reason that I teach now is because so that I don't be asked. I believe that I will be judged. So it's like I've done my part, kind of thing.
Emmanuel, so you said that, okay, it doesn't really matter. I was raised Pentecostal. Maybe we just had a different denomination, but so you roughly hold to the idea that we don't have free will, that some people were pre-chosen, were destined, if you will, to become Christians, to follow God, and some people were never going to. So the reason why that you're preaching is that it is just part of your duty as a professing believer, and that God will somehow, if it's going to happen, it's going to be on his time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you believe in a God who specifically created humans that he knew would not accept him and will burn forever.
They will burn forever, but I don't have a right to ask them. So I think in the ninth chapter of Romans, it specifically says.
Hang on.
Back up.
Whoa, back up a second. I've got to ask you a question here. So I used to be a practicing Masorti Jew. So are you saying to me that when I was a practicing Masorti Jew, believing in God, that I had been predetermined to go to hell?
No, God. What I'm saying is God knew, and He has predicted. I mean, I don't know. Even maybe you'll become a Christian in the future, so I can't actually tell.
But then why go through all this? If there's no free will, why go through all these previous bits? Why was I a Masorti Jew practicing Judaism, believing in God, then leaving Judaism and becoming a secular Jew? Why go through all that then? If there's no free will, why go through all that? If there's no free will.
So what I think is, even in the story, God knew that we, Adam and Eve will eat the apple, the fruit, but He actually He put them there, and God knew that we will fall into sin. That's why God actually elected His elect people in Christ before the foundation of the world. So in the end, if you become a Christian, then you're probably elect. So if you hear the gospel and if you end up being saved, I'll say like you're elect.
Yeah, Emmanuel. I mean, Phoebe and I we've heard this many times, but I think the biggest thing there's lots of different things that I don't agree on that you're talking, and I'm sure we could have a 10-hour discussion. We could do a deep dive into theology and the biblical scriptures that are backing up your point of view, but ultimately, I'm not going to be able to get past the idea that you are worshiping somebody, you believe in, worship, and submit to a creator type God who specifically created something that it has intelligence and everything that about us as humans, just knowing that they would be born, they would live their lives, they would have whatever suffering happens on this earth, that they may have a good life or a bad life, and then afterwards he already knew this, they're going to go burn in hell for eternity. What kind of creator creates something just so he can watch them suffer forever? That doesn't sound like a benevolent God to me. That sounds like a sadist.
And there's one more question I need to ask you. Why have you been chosen, and why haven't Aaron and I been chosen? How is this choice made? Why haven't we been chosen yet, as you will put it, because we could become Christians? Why have you been chosen over Aaron and I at this precise moment in time?
We're not really sure if I'm chosen and you're not chosen, because we don't know till like in the end if I end up losing my faith, I was not chosen to even start off. But if you end up a Christian, you're probably chosen.
But does it have to be your denomination of Christianity, or can it be a Catholic? Can it be a Jehovah's Witness? Can it be a Seventh-day Adventist? Can it be a Plymouth Brethren? Can it be an Anglican? Can it be any flavor of Christianity, or does it have to specifically be your flavor of Christianity?
It doesn't have to be a Pentecostal. It doesn't have to be, Protestant. If anyone believes in the Son of God, and Jesus died and resurrected, he'll be saved.
So how do we do that? How do we become a Christian to you? How do we do it?
But I have to say this just before you answer that question. So in Judaism, I recognized the existence of Jesus when I was a practicing Jew. I recognized Jesus, but I didn't recognize Jesus as the Son of God. I recognized Jesus as a prophet. So does that make me? What does that make me? And how do you answer Aaron's question?
So what I think is still you're giving me a scenario that I can't answer. I'm not God, so I don't know the future. Maybe even in the deathbed, you might receive Jesus Christ and you might go to heaven. So I can't speak on your behalf. What I believe is if anyone believes, in Christ, they'll be saved. So what I think is, let me give can I give an example, by the way?
Well, I still want you to tell me how I become a Christian. Like, how do I do that? I can't apparently choose. I can't choose anything. I don't believe in this. And so what do? How do I, what's the point of talking to me? There's nothing either of us can do.
How do I find the truth and become a Christian? How do I find the truth and become a Christian? How do I do that?
So what I think is, being a Christian is a very easy thing. So it's just like you just have to believe, and you'll be with Christ, throughout it.
But believe in what? What am I supposed to believe in?
The same thing that Emmanuel does.
Jesus died and resurrected.
But I can believe that, but not realize. But there's nothing in there that says that I have to recognize the forgiveness of sin. There's nothing in there saying I have to recognize the Son of God. I, as a Jew, could say that the prophecy of Jesus. This is me speaking as when I was Jewish, not as me speaking as skeptical Phoebe now. So when I was Jewish, I recognized Jesus as the prophet, a prophet. So I could very easily say that prophet died and was resurrected by God. I could very easily say that. And I could very easily believe that. But I'm not a Christian. I'm still a Jew in that scenario. So does that scenario nullify, or does that scenario mean that I will be saved because I have gone, Jesus existed, Jesus died, Jesus was resurrected. God did that, but I'm not going to follow this person because they're just a prophet.
Too bad, it's too bad.
I'm sorry. Hello?
Okay. Well, Emmanuel, I think we're kind of getting to I think we're just going to keep going in a circle here. I think that I don't want to answer the question for you, but I feel like if I were to sum it up, then Phoebe, you're still gonna burn in hell. I'm gonna give you one more chance to answer the question. Then we're gonna let you go for this week. And I don't know. I'd like to talk to you again maybe in the future if you could come up with some solid answers for these. Like how do we become Christians, and is Phoebe gonna burn in hell forever? But yeah, go ahead, finish Phoebe's question.
So you do have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So that short thing that you just said, I don't think it's enough to get you saved. But you have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, because when you say He has resurrected from the dead, you're actually you have to imply that He is the Son. So if you deny the Son, then you'll be judged. and damned. So I do believe it's necessary to believe in the Son, if that's the question that you just asked. I believe I answered.
So I
There
think
you
I
go.
should. I think I should. Get my fire extinguishers at the ready, and be
I think
prepared
so
for
too.
burning in hell. I might get some. I might take some aloe vera with me as well, because those burns, they're going to need some things.
Well, Emmanuel, I appreciate you calling in. I know you can't see us going anywhere else with this call. I do take some. I do contest that is this Pentecostal kind of upbringing that I was raised with. I think if it fits more into Calvinism, in my opinion, but it doesn't matter. Call us again sometime. Maybe we'll get a little further in our conversations if we can keep it on track with what exactly you want us to do to become the right kind of Christian.
I want to talk to Jim, who's calling in from New Jersey. First we had Joe, now we got Jim. Jim from New Jersey, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hello. Yeah, so I'm a Christian, and I pretty much kind of like just get you guys just kind of, ask me anything, because throughout my life, I've seen a lot of things about the Bible that didn't look good, and then I've learned about things, and then I saw it from the other way.
Well, here's what the call screener wrote, and they said that you wanted to know of us why we think the God of the Bible is bad. Was that something you were interested in talking to us about?
Yeah, that was pretty much what I was going to explain.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The reasons why you think.
Yeah, well, one, I think it's important to point out that I don't think the God as described in the Bible, Old Testament or New Testament, exists. I don't currently hold a belief that they exist as an entity, right? So I can describe their characteristics, but that doesn't mean that I think that they exist as a thing, right? Just getting that out there, because some people get confused. They're like, how can you say that something that isn't real is bad? Well, I also don't think like Peter Pan is real, but I can tell you about their character as people have depicted them, right? So that's how I feel about the Bible when it comes to God, right? Like God has been depicted by different authors at different times in history. The Bible encompasses thousands of years worth. About 1,500 years in the total span of the Bible, right? And encompasses all that work from different people at different times who interpreted God differently. So it's an idea that isn't single, I guess. It's more than one thing, right? So that's kind of the problem when we talk about the characteristics of God, because the God in the book of Genesis, for example, or even in just the Pentateuch, is different from the God of the New Testament, in my opinion. I don't even know if they're talking about the same being. Rather, they're just talking about what they perceive to be the same being, this kind of same idea. So, but if we want to talk about why I think God is bad, pretty simple. He told people to do bad things. I mean, that's it. Like, he was definitely okay with people owning other people. He was definitely okay with Israel invading other nations and killing people and having this sort of vengeance. That was his idea of justice. He also definitely has talked about men and women being different. Well, I mean, again, this is authors' interpretations of what God thinks, but I think he's been used to uphold an unjust patriarchy in some ways, and sometimes just is blamed on for all kinds of things. Christians say, well, God told me to do X, Y, and Z. So again, like, this idea of God is also bad. But yeah, as far as the character that's described in the Bible, like Yahweh, like, yeah, they've also done a lot of bad things as well. I think killing people indiscriminately is wrong. So global flood is bad. If Jim from New Jersey did a global flood, I would say Jim was a bad person. But you haven't done that. At least I don't think so. But if a God did do that, then yeah, I think that's a bad thing to do. But again, there's a lot of things when talking about the Bible there. So there's my long explanation there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I was looking for like one specific reason. I understand you don't believe in God. I'm just like the God of the Bible. Like, what is wrong, or just some specific reasons that we could talk about about the depiction of God in the Bible.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think flooding people. I mean, assuming the story is true, right? If God flooded the world and killed everybody on Earth, yeah, that's a bad thing to do. That's my
pretty
example.
genocidal and sadistic.
Yeah.
Like for me, I think of the he had an opportunity to have this book be his form of communication with the people he created, but the first book of the Bible is just completely barbaric. He's mentioning the flood, but there's also the story of Lot and his daughter. So you
Right.
start off with rape and incest at the beginning, and and then there's slavery. And
Yeah.
then as you go throughout the book, it's just a lot of killing, a lot of hate and violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely hate and violence in the Bible. But that's just a part of reality. I mean, that like, what does God say about? Maybe we could talk about the flood.
But he made the 10 commandments though,
Yeah.
and he had an
Well,
opportunity to make the 10 commandments say something like, don't own another human being. But
yeah.
instead, he made it more about like, hey, don't worship any other gods above me and obey your parents, even though they might be complete, like, abusive assholes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jim, do you
Mhm.
think that flooding the Earth, like if somebody did that, you would describe that thing as a bad person, whether they're a human being or something else, like just indiscriminately killing everybody on Earth is a bad thing?
Well, the thing is though, it's definitely something that would cause suffering in people's lives.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I believe that God, the God of the Bible and the hypothetical situation of God being just in all of his judgments and even causing suffering in certain people, it's always just because he's the higher power in the Bible. So it's pretty much just like, is God just for causing suffering in the world?
Yeah, and I would say
That's
no.
really
I don't think it's just. Why should I believe it's just?
good. Yeah, I mean, just because hypothetically in the Bible, God is perfect and in all things that he does, he gave life, he gave us everything and whatever he finds suitable to, either scourge or punish or even kill anyone, it's always right.
So
Is it though?
is this a might makes right scenario because God is just who he is, therefore everything he does is right?
Yeah, biblically, he's the Holy One. He's right in everything he does.
Yeah. So like
uh,
do you think it's right because God says it's right, or do you think it's right because you think it's right?
Well, I believe that God can do whatever he wants just based on me believing that God is holy, but also just biblically, not even taking my belief in God in the equation, just biblically, the Bible says, he is holy and, just to do as he pleases.
Do you
Just
think that
based on
also
the
maybe kind of
Bible's
sounds like an
definition.
abusive relationship too, though? Like, what if you had a father and a son, like your dad, for instance? What if he was telling you all this stuff, convincing you, no, I'm your father. Everything I say is right, and everything I'm telling you is just. So even though I'm maybe beating you or telling you to do something that you shouldn't be doing, it's okay because I said it's right, because everything I say is right.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, like an earthly father is not like literally God to a child. If the father is literally like a demon possessed, I think God is going to forgive, a child for like running from his father, who's telling him to, worship other gods or something like that.
Why? Wait,
Or,
why do you think that though? Because like God literally killed it. I mean, again, I don't know if you believe the flood is a true story. If you don't, then this is irrelevant. But like God literally just killed everyone, including children on Earth, because apparently they weren't holy enough, right? And that
Yeah,
includes
imagine the people floating around, like, it could have been,
yeah,
pregnant women, elderly people,
yeah,
children, all just, like, begging for their lives. That
yeah.
sounds messed up.
I don't really know who those people were, but
Does it matter?
Yeah, why does that matter?
Well,
Do you think if they were bad
I mean,
people, then that it's okay that they were killed in the flood?
oh yeah. I mean, everybody's worthy
Mm.
of condemnation, honestly. You know, I mean, but I mean,
Everyone's worthy of dying in a flood?
everybody deserves death, I believe.
You think I deserve
Why?
why? Like, yeah, why?
Well, I just I believe that no man is able to stand before the throne of God's judgment without any forgiveness. Therefore, we're
Why?
all worthy of death. Why? I mean, just base level, believing in God's holiness, and believing in His commandments. You know, I believe His commandments are just. I believe God is holy, and you know, I'm here to talk about any sort of commandments that you find to be foolish, evil.
Well, I
And
mean,
just, you know, because it really comes down. Mhm.
I understand the common Christian conception of God is that He is a perfect being, right, who can do no wrong, and so therefore, if we're following like divine command theory, which is kind of I think what you're alluding to, then yeah, like God can do what He pleases, and it doesn't matter. But I'm just wondering, like, if God is what determines what's right and wrong, how do you know what's right and wrong then? Because like because like when I see an act of killing everybody in the world in a flood, I see that as a bad thing. I don't know how you can justify that other than, well, I'm God, so I get to say so. Like that's not a principle. You know what I mean? That's not really like a rule. It's just a rule of whatever I say goes. So like what why should I have to follow any other kind of principle then if it's just whatever says, right? Like I mean, do you think like morality can exist independently from God? Because otherwise, I mean, how do you even evaluate things if it's just, it's whatever God thinks is right? Because I mean, to me, again, if I heard anybody on earth say, "Yeah, my plan is to flood everybody in the world indiscriminately," I would say that's a bad thing. So, like, am I wrong in saying that's bad because, oh, God did it this time? Like, I don't know.
And also, how does that make him
I mean,
perfect too?
Yeah.
Because 5 chapters in, he's like, "I'm not happy with my creation. I'm gonna get rid of all of them except for Noah's family."
Right.
I mean, it's just the creation. You know, it's not that
Just
important.
Other people?
It's just the created being. Yeah. I mean,
So if
it's
like
His
all of us
creation.
died right
What
now, we
what do
would
we
just
have?
we're just a creation, we're not important? If the flood happened right now
Uh,
today, it would it wouldn't matter. None of us are important.
well, truthfully, no. I don't believe so. No.
Hmm.
Like when you think about in the scheme of eternity and just like compared to how good God is, I mean the only thing that matters is God and what He can give us through love. I
What
mean, it's just
love do
great.
you
Like
think we
compared,
experience from God?
it, well, I believe the love of God is through Jesus and through His Word.
So he killed his son, and that's the way he showed us love? How else does he show us
Yeah,
love?
because He killed His son, and He was also risen from the grave. So, so we can have His love through putting our faith on His son and trusting that He lived for us without sin and rose again for us, so that we could be counted righteous and God could see us righteous just through putting our faith alone on His son. And we would know the love of God that way through His Spirit, everlasting life.
Do you think it matters? Like if God can just kill us all in a flood, right? What and well, you're talking about love, right? God through the Holy Spirit, right, gives us the ability to love other people. I would argue that again, and I know I'm harping on this, but this is a really big sticking point for me. If I think you would agree, Jim, if I flooded the world you would agree that that's not a loving act in any way, right? Even if I took what you were saying and say, well, this is all just in the short term, right? Because we have eternity ahead of us. I think you would still describe me doing that as a bad thing, right?
I mean, you're you and God's God, though. You know,
Yeah, but why does that matter?
like if God caused me to get killed, even I would still love God.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Maybe
Why
he
would you
was
love
angry
someone that wants to kill you?
because he was angry with me, and he's it's all right. You know, I don't. You know,
Seems a little messed up, to be
That's yeah.
honest.
Why I mean, why does he being mad
Here's
and why does he being angry at you justify your murder?
because he gave me everything. You know, I mean, let's just think hypothetically here about the flood.
Yeah.
God gave the whole world every breath they've ever had, every movement they've ever had, everything they've ever seen, all the good things, everything, their whole body, every part of their existence, you know, was given by God. That's a lot to love him for. And, you know, if he's spiritually, you know, people can love him spiritually, but also there's so much to thank him for. It's kind of overwhelming, hypothetically speaking.
I mean,
considering the flood, you know, like say like he gave me everything and then he drowns me in a flood, I'd be like, wow, thank you for everything.
I don't know that everyone on Earth at the time, if the story was real, was given everything. But you know, that aside, Jim, like, look, again, if you describe the act of killing people in the way that you're describing to any other being besides God, we would call it psychopathic. We would call it murderous. I mean, it's literally worse than Hitler, right? Like at least with the Holocaust, it was only some people. We're talking about all people on Earth, right, that are dying because God is upset with them and he has a right because he created everyone. I really don't see the logic. I don't see why I created you, therefore I get to kill you whenever I want. I don't see how you can make that through line, you know?
You know, the Bible talks
I
about
think
Satan saying that he's going to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
Yet in this situation, it really seems like it's God that's doing that. The only way that it really makes sense reading the Bible is if God's actually the bad guy, because I don't see any stealing, killing, or destroying done by Satan. It seems like it's
oh,
God.
God's not stealing because God, it's not even our life, you know. I mean, it's his to take, it's his to give, it's his to take. So it's not really stealing. And he also gives a lot. He doesn't just destroy. You know, he also there's a lot of goodness from God, but also he can destroy.
So
I mean, there's nothing
so
he can steal.
is the
What about
flood
natural
act
disasters? That's destroying.
yeah, well that's interesting because you said there's a lot of good he can do, but he can also destroy. So are you saying that his act of destroying is separate from an act of being good?
Well, it doesn't. Him doing destruction does not inherently make him unholy.
I mean,
Him
why
doing
not?
destruction is because it's a form of judgment. It's everything is about him and learning from him. You know, he is the father. So, you know, it's like if a father disciplines his son, why is he? You know, it's because he loves the world and he wants the world to know
Sure.
how do
Well,
you please God, what is right.
the point of discipline is to show the error of someone's ways so that they can do better, right? Killing someone isn't discipline. There's no discipline there.
I know.
I mean they can't
Yeah.
exist anymore in the world, you know? So what's the
Yeah, but
point of killing everybody, honestly? What's the purpose? Is it just cuz he wants to do it so he can? Is it to show a lesson? I mean, cuz I think
Well,
there's other ways you can show lessons, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely was a symbol. I mean, he definitely used it as. I mean, but can I say 2 points?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And we got to wrap up this call soon here, Jim, just as a warning, but go ahead.
It's that, he does kill sometimes, but he also just punishes, physically on this earth. So a father, he doesn't only just kill, but he does actually punish just like in regular ways. Like, you're going to get afflicted in your life. You're not going to enjoy, what I'm going to do, and you can learn from that,
So why didn't he do that with the people that were killed? Sorry, I know you had another question, but like if it's demonstrated that disciplining some people can work sometimes, why didn't he just discipline them instead of killing them?
Well, he just did that. I don't know. He decides to kill people sometimes, and that's his judge. It's not really for their learning, but also for the world learning. So he just decided to kill them that time, and also he used it as a great symbol. The flood, the boat symbolizes Jesus being saved. So he uses these things also as symbols, perfect symbols of the whole gospel, even. So that's one reason why he did that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it is obviously symbolic to me, but it's symbolic in the sense of like, yeah, this is a mass murder that happened, and it's basically telling me if we don't listen to this guy, he's gonna do this to you, or he has the potential and right to do this to you. So I mean, you better listen. I mean, like that when I hear that, that's what that sounds like to me. I don't know what act of love or mercy comes from killing the entire world and saying, I could do this to you too, by the way, but I'm not gonna. I mean, to me, that's not mercy. That's a threat. That's coercion, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's one form of his way to get his points across, but also it's through his people being lights of the world through how loving they are and how obeying the laws of God through the people. Like Israel should be a light to the world. So
I wish there was more of that. I wish that had happened instead of killing everybody. Again, I don't believe the story is literally true, but it seems like that would be better. I mean, do you think so, Jim? Do you think that would be better?
I think, sometimes he punishes on this earth just a little, like, and keeps people alive, and sometimes he punishes them to death, and it's whatever he does.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jim, that's about all the time I have because we have a bunch of other people that want to talk to us. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you go. But I appreciate you calling in, and thank you for giving us that back and forth there. Ashley, what'd you think of that call?
It was pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a person, yeah, that anybody that would do that's pretty disturbing, right?
Like, should I take his example and treat my daughter that way?
Yeah.
It seems just I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of is it's disturbing. It's disturbing that this guy believes this stuff.
But you know what, Ashley? I believe the exact same thing. I really did. I just didn't. I will say I will give credit to Jim here that he at least verbalizes it. I don't know if I would have been able to verbalize it that way, but at the end of the day, yeah, it really was just might makes right. God is just and holy because he says so, and we have to believe him because he says we do.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the logic. That's it.
It's just everything he says is right and just and loving, and it's just that by default.
Yeah. Which again, it just begs the question: how do we know what's right and wrong there if it's just whatever God says? I don't have access to what God is telling me what to do every day, right? He's not informing my actions. I mean, Christians obviously claim to have the Holy Spirit, but clearly, people who have had the Holy Spirit have had different ideas of what right and wrong are, right? Like, I think you can objectively look at that and point to all the denominations that have come out of Christianity and say, well, look, this is what we should be doing. This is what we shouldn't be doing. I mean, it doesn't seem very clear,
No,
just
not at all.
doesn't seem very clear. But I don't know. That's Christianity. That's Christianity for you. Don't know what to say about that.
watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.